I know Representative Gary Click, one of really the best in the country, of course in the state of Ohio, but across the nation. And yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to have Representative Click and Klopfenstein for sponsor testimony.
But there's no more local control than Bob and Betty Buckeye.
Well, that explains why he keeps saying, well, that's not the way Representative Click does it.
I'm not supposed to get emotional, but I am.
Then we sat down with Click to discuss his bill and the controversy surrounding it.
And the chair would like to invite Representative Click to present testimony.
The question is, shall the bill pass? The chair recognizes Representative Click.
Welcome back to What's Clicking with State Representative Gary Click. Today we are going to be talking about HB 393. Representative, would you like to tell us a little bit about what this bill is doing?
Yes. So thanks, Janae. In today's episode, we've got 3 guests on here to talk about what we're doing with the CBCFs, which is Community-Based Correctional Facilities. And it's a diversion program for those who have been sentenced. They're eligible to be incarcerated, but instead they qualify for this program, which actually helps them find a career path. It helps them deal with certain issues. It's a minimum risk, a low risk facility. And getting out of the facility, one of the main things that's important to prevent recidivism and to reoffense is to help them reintegrate into society. And one of the most essential things to do that is to have a state ID. And we want to make sure, as I was visiting the facility in Marysville, I was talking to Craig Shumaker, and he said, one of the things, I said, what do you need? That's always what I ask when I'm talking to people. What do you need? And he said, well, I'm glad you asked. He said, the year prior, the DRC was given a mandate and given the ability to provide resources for inmates to get their ID before they are released, so that once they're released, they're ready to go. They're ready to to start looking for a job. They're ready to get housing. They're ready to access the benefits that they're entitled to and things like that. But they inadvertently left out the CBCFs because they do not fall under the DRC. And so they said, if there's a way that you can get us in that would be perfect. Because see, while folks are incarcerated, it's hard for them to get everything they need. They can't get their birth certificate. It's hard to get their Social Security, everything that they need. Those other forms of ID that are necessary to get their state ID. But yet, as Craig was telling me, he said, we know who they are, because if they weren't who they are, we wouldn't have them incarcerated. And certainly they would be saying, hey, I'm not that person. We know we have the right person. And so we need to be able to get rid of some of that red tape in order to get them their state ID. And so we brought on Craig and also Jason Varney, who is from Tiffin and takes care of the Oriana House there in Tiffin. And both of these gentlemen do a fantastic job. I've been to both facilities. And then my joint sponsor is ranking member Darnell Brewer. And many of the things that we do, most people don't realize this, but many of the things that we do in the House are actually bipartisan. They just don't make the news as much. And Darnell Brewer is the ranking member of my committee. And the way each committee works is there's a split, based on, how many Republicans are in the House, how many Democrats are in the House. That's how we kind of split the committees likewise. And then each committee has a chairman. I happen to be the chairman of the Community Revitalization Committee. Then we have a vice chair who's also from the majority party. And then we have a ranking member, and the ranking member is the leading Democrat on that committee. And Representative Darnell Brewer is the ranking member. He's a good person, a good friend. We may not agree on all policies, but quite honestly, he does a fantastic job. And he and I are able to work through these things together in a positive way. And so we are actually running this bill together. Each bill has a primary sponsor. You can have a joint sponsor. You're not required to, but you can have a joint sponsor, and then you can have co-sponsors. And so the primary sponsor and the joint sponsor, they actually work the bill. And so Representative Brewer is my joint sponsor of this bill, and it is in the committee that he and I both oversee. And it's really a fairly, it's a bipartisan bill. It's going to be an easy bill to get across the finish line, I believe, but it's going to do a lot of good for a lot of people along the way. And so that's what our conversation is about today.
All right, let's jump into the podcast.
Let's do it. All right, I am honored to have three guests with me today, and we're talking about House Bill 393, which works with the CBCFs, and I will explain that term in just a moment. But what we're trying to do is just to help incarcerated folks as they reintegrate into society. And this all started with me by visiting a community-based correctional facility with Craig Schumer in Marysville. So what I want to do as we just start is I just want to kind of go around the room and let you get to know who everyone is, where they're at, what they're doing, and then we'll start our conversation. So we'll just start with you, Craig.
I'm Craig Shumaker. I'm the Executive Director of the West Central Community-Based Correctional Facility here in Marysville, Ohio. And our facility represents 8 counties, primarily, a little bit in the north and western central Ohio region. And we serve both men and women at our facility. We have wings for both. And I also am a representative. I'm a Corgus member and a trustee for that organization, which is an organization that represents 11 of the CBCFs here in Ohio. So I'll turn it over and let Jason introduce himself.
Jason.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Representative Click, Representative Brewer, for having me on today. Greatly appreciate it. My name is Jason Varney. I'm a Vice President, Correctional Programs in North Central and Southeast Ohio for Oriana House Incorporated. Oriana House is a nonprofit charitable organization based in Summit County, and Oriana House operates 3 community-based correctional facilities in Ohio. We are contracted. We are a private agency that operates 3 CBCFs. I work at the CBCF in Seneca County in Representative Click's district. We are a 94-bed community-based correctional facility. We serve 58 men and 94 women, and we've been in place here in Tiffin, Ohio since 1999.
Wonderful. And finally, my colleague on the Community Revitalization Committee, the ranking member, Representative Darnell Brewer. Tell us about yourself, sir.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'm Darnell Brewer, House Representative 22 District. It represents the southeast side of Cleveland, a couple of suburbs, Garfield, Maple, Bedford, and Bedford Heights. We do have a footprint, but Oriana House in our district as well, and a couple of CBCs in our district. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be among you friends and talk about how we can move this bill forward.
Wonderful. So, gentlemen, Jason, Craig, so 2 things. Number one, just CBCF, because I always get lost in the acronyms here in Columbus, and I have to always say, now, what does that stand for again? And so CBCF is Community-Based Correctional Facility. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you two to kind of explain exactly what that is. But also, there are private ones and then there are public ones. So also kind of make that distinction for us. And so, Craig, why don't you lead it off, and then Jason, you can clean up and tell us everything that Craig left out.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of clarify. Yes, we are. It definitely can be confusing about what a CBCF is, and so really the CBCF serves the purpose. And they were started in the 1970s. Actually, the Monday Correctional Facility over in Dayton was the first CBCF in Ohio. And they were started with the purpose of diverting individuals from prison. As the prison populations began to increase, there began to be this belief that, how do we help reduce that population? And so if we can give individuals, keep them closer to home, because generally we serve a catchment area. Some CBCFs serve one singular county. So like Franklin County, their primary catchment area is just one county in Franklin County, whereas a facility like mine is a little bit more rural. And so I will serve 8 counties. I know Star CBCF in Southern Ohio serves, I believe, 19 counties because of their rural footprint. So there are difference in sizes. We have facilities in the state of Ohio that are as big as 350 funded beds, and some as small in the 60s for their bed count. So again, there's variation in size as well. And while we're diverting those individuals from prison, we're able to holistically address their needs and risks to possibly help them reduce their risk to reoffend, right? So that includes departments in our agencies for substance use treatment, um, cognitive behavioral treatment to make better decisions, education, and so that's allowing folks to work towards a GED. It's allowing folks to prepare if they want to apply and enter a technical school or a local college. We have employability skills and job readiness, as well as vocational training. So again, it's really targeting all areas that may make someone more likely to offend in the future, and just reduce recidivism in that manner. And so we're able to bring people in, begin that treatment right away. We cannot, by statute, keep anyone in our facility longer than 6 months. And so it's a pretty quick turnaround, right? You have people who've made lifelong, choices and decisions off of their values and beliefs, and we're trying to change that in a pretty quick amount of time. But folks can complete the program much quicker than that as well. So some individuals complete programming in 80 or 90 days. It just really depends on the individualized person that we're trying to treat and give them the best avenue to succeed. And so that's the main point, is everybody that's in our building today, within the next 6 months, they'll all be in the community. And so how can we best prepare them to do that? And I think this bill definitely helps address that. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll let Jason talk about the private and publics, and then wrap up all the stuff I forgot about.
There we go. Jason.
Well, you didn't leave a lot of meat on that bone, Craig. So that was a pretty good synopsis. So I'll try to figure it out. But so, from my perspective, having been involved 26 years with the CBCF, to me, they reflect Ohio's commitment to both rehabilitating offenders and also promoting public safety. They really do. The folks that we bring into these CBCF programs are folks from the local community who could have gone to prison, but as Craig said, they're not dangerously violent. They're not committing a lot of crimes against a person. They're thoroughly screened. Most have some type of substance use disorder or mental health issue. And so prison is not necessarily the best or even the most cost-effective way to incarcerate those folks. And so a community-based correctional facility provides just an outstanding option for local court, county court, to take care of their own folks, keep them local, as Craig said, although some of our districts do get quite large in rural communities. The CBCF in Tiffin is a 9-county catchment area. But at the same time, they come through our program. They're not warehoused. They're not sitting in a cell. They're actively engaged in treatment start to finish. Their schedules are very busy. They do things like community service. We do job preparation. We do housing preparation. In addition to all the things Craig mentioned, some CBCFs like Crossway and Tiffin, we allow our clients to obtain work and gain employment in the community while they're with us. Obviously, if they earn the privilege to do so. We have facility governing boards. Those boards are appointed either by the boards of county commissioners or the judges that preside in the individual district. Crossway happens to have a 9-member facility governing board, and they provide all of the oversight and approve policies and procedures and serve as a governing body, so that the operation of the CBCF is local, right? So even though it's funded at a state level through DRC, the operation of the programs is very much localized and should suit the needs of the district or the county in which it resides.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, let me, if I could, if it's okay with you,
please.
I'll just mention the difference between the public and the private. So there are 5 privately operated CBCFs. And the way that works is the funding flows through the county. That facility governing board chooses to contract with a community corrections provider. So in the case of Oriana House, the Cuyahoga County commissioners, the Summit County administrator, and the Seneca County commissioners and governing boards choose to contract with Oriana House to operate these CBCFs for the local jurisdiction. The other two are in the Community Corrections Association in Youngstown operates a CBCF, and Talbot House operates a CBCF just north of Cincinnati.
But whether you're public or private, you're working towards the same goals and accomplishing the same purposes. And so I'm going to, in just a second, I'm going to divert to Representative Brewer to see if he has a question for you just about the basic functions or a comment. But I noticed that when I was there, it seemed like all of the people that were there, the incarcerated individuals, they were all very pleased with being with you. They wanted to be there. It was by choice. They were, and I even noticed that they were learning respect for themselves and for others. They would introduce themselves to me like, "Hello, I'm Mr. Smith," and they would call each other Mr. or Miss or Mrs. And they were just demonstrating great respect for one another. They were happy. They were learning skills. They were learning to be a chef, or they were learning something else. So, number one, this is not, no one is required to be there, and no one automatically is allowed to come in. They have to be able to justify that this is good for them and that they fit the program. And it's also a choice on their part. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do choose to come in. They are court ordered. So once they've decided between the prosecuting attorney, the defense attorney, the client, and the judge, once they've decided that a CBCF is a good option, yeah, it's the client has to go along with it also.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it's not just voluntary to be there. It's either there or in another correctional facility, but it's a choice to choose your program over DRC.
Absolutely. And it's based on identified need, right? Typically there is some need or some issue within that person's life that a CBCF could provide programming to help them, as Craig said, reduce recidivism and reduce the likelihood that they'll reoffend.
Rep Brewer, do you have a question or a comment?
You kind of leaned into what I was thinking about, the success of the individuals that come through the program. Could you just talk about some of the successes that you've had, as you talk about the respect, learning new tools, and, as they exit the program, some of the successful stories that you make, and just briefly tell us about?
Go ahead, Craig.
Sure. I'll kick off with and just give one or two examples. Of course, the information I'm going to give is more like anecdotal, certain situations, but just to let you know how much I believe in what we do and the power of assisting people to change their lives around. I actually employ multiple individuals who have come through and completed CBCFs. Several of those completed our own individual programs. So these individuals, I'll give you one quick story. So we had a young lady who, I believe it was now about 7 to 8 years ago, came through our program as a resident through felony court, completed the program, we assisted her in returning to her community. She got back in the community, completed her probationary requirements, and realized that as she had started to make changes in her life and see the positive outcomes, she wanted to be able to do that and provide assistance to others. So she went back to school, got herself enrolled in college, began working towards a chemical dependency certification and licensure, and came in and we recently, about a year ago, hired her to come in our sort of entry level security department. Since she's been with us, she finalized her degree, and she actually was just promoted about a month and a half ago and moved into another role in our organization. And so that's one of many. We employ, I believe we have 7 employees currently who have been in some level of a community-based correctional facility. And so I think it's important that we're just not talking about it, right? That we're going to be about it. And so we've had some excellent examples like that. The same thing as we stay as part of the reentry into the community, is we have to link to local providers and provide service after folks get out. We are fortunate that we operate also a non-residential program in a couple of our counties for when folks are released, and we're providing service after the fact. And we just had a case update last week about a woman who'd been out of the building about a year, and this is a person who had, lost, temporarily lost custody of her children. She had been, living on the streets for a period of time, came through our program, and here we are a year later. She now has custody of her children, has her own home, has a job for over a year, and herself is also going back to school. So again, cases like that, when you start to look at the ripple effect, how this potentially generationally could affect her kids' lives, her other families' lives. Those are the stories that motivate us all the time, and we're very thankful for that.
So it truly is about rehabilitation. That's not just a word, but it's actually something that happens, right? Okay, very good. Well, so I've been to both of your facilities. Both of your facilities are just excellent and very well run and very productive. And Craig, when I came to visit you, I met you at a dinner and we began talking about some issues. And you said, "Come out and see us in Marysville." So I took you up on that offer. I always take people up on those offers. I better be careful about saying that on this podcast because I'll be so busy I can't come do my job here. But that is my job. And so you had a special request when I came to see you, and then I came and talked to you about it later, Jason. But what was that request? What was the stumbling block that you were running into, that a need that needed to be met?
Yeah, the issue at hand centered around being able to obtain identification, state IDs, driver's license, things like that for our residents, because it's really important for them to be able to obtain jobs, and then when they leave the facility, there's things like you need a license or a state ID to rent an apartment, or to apply for certain things, to travel. All those things are a need, and through the years, we would run into stumbling blocks because there are, to get your ID, you need social security card, you need birth certificate. Well, those things, um, sometimes our residents they've lost them through the years. They don't have access to them. They're not sure where they are. And so it takes some time. In some cases, it's a time consuming process. It costs money, that the clients sometimes don't have to be able to get this stuff. And I was just thinking in my head that there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be a better way. How can we, because we want to get them identification, right? We need to get them identification. It's important. So, and I think I made the comment to you, our representative, that it's like, well, the state recognizes that they're here. They're sending them to us. And if that's not who they say they are, then we're all in big trouble.
Right. It's like, if you have the wrong person incarcerated, I'm sure you'd be hearing from an attorney.
Yes. So it's like, well, the state's recognizing them. So if we could somehow shore up this process, and then right before you had come out, I think what was going on was in December of 24, there was a bill that was passed that included language for Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and DYS that was to help streamline the process, to allow for DRC and DYS to get their individuals' identification. So that was the problem that I brought up to you. And then I believe we spent, a couple months going back and forth about some language and things, how to pursue that. And really, again, really appreciate the effort on your end to help as we push this forward, to try to get it to come to fruition, to give our clients what they need to succeed.
And Jason, how do you think this is going to help the folks that you work with every day?
I think that House Bill 393 is going to fill a gap, because what the state did last year was great, right? When 315 passed, it required prisons to do exactly what your guys' bill is trying to do, CBCFs, but it left a gap because CBCFs are prison diversion. And so you have an entire population of people who aren't necessarily transitioning out of prison with that mandate and that identification, but they're prison eligible. And so I'll just give you an example at Crossway. Typically, at any given time, 75% of our client population is directly sentenced to the CBCF as a true prison diversion. They could have been sent to prison and they were not. So 393 fills that gap, and it requires that those people also then are subject to what the intent of 315 was to begin with, which is to help these people overcome barriers, get these things that they need to be productive when they're released to the community. If only 25% of our population is being released to us through judicial release from prison, then we're missing that whole group of people. And so this kind of cleans that up, and that's why I support
Right.
this.
And so that was something that was an unintended omission, I think. I don't think anyone purposefully left you out, but sometimes, you know, legislators aren't perfect, right, Rep Brewer? And sometimes we miss some things.
You are absolutely correct. We are not perfect, and that's why this bill is one of those easy fix
Yeah.
that you discovered, and you not only work on this bill, the other bills to help other people get a second chance. But yes, this is one of these easy fix.
Yeah, we're actually working on a CQE bill that's going to a certificate of qualified employment that I'm working on with Representative Humphrey, and I think that's making some good speed. I think that's going to get voted out of committee real soon to help those folks who are leaving incarceration to be able to apply within a year. Right now, it's up to 5 years before they could apply for this, and we're cutting that down to about a year because we really want to help people reintegrate into society. And Representative Brewer and I serve on the Community Revitalization Committee, which is where this bill is being heard, and I'm the chairman, and he happens to be the ranking member. He and I work very well together from opposite sides of the aisle, but we find that common ground whenever we can, and sometimes we can't, but very often we find that we can. And when we can't, we still work well together. And we had talked about a couple other bills where maybe we could connect and so forth, and we just didn't. And so when I took this bill up, I thought immediately of you, Representative Brewer. And tell me why this bill is important to you. Why do you want to be a part of this bill, and what do you see the future of it in going through committee?
Well, I'll say it's a step in the right direction, especially with you as the joint. Thank you for honoring me to be on this with you, but it's a step in the right direction. You all know, Craig and Jason, the district I represent has a large population who returns home. And so when you return home, this is something that's much needed. Even if just to enter the city hall to get the birth certificate, you need an ID. Some buildings you need an ID. So this is a step in the right direction. And so we don't want anyone to return back into the system that they just came from. And I think this is one of those stumbling blocks to help people get on that right path. So I hope it leads to other things. Like you said, you're working on another bill, Rep Humphrey, which leading to some other issues that need to be addressed. And so I think this is just a small step in the right direction.
Amen. Very good. And I feel good about it from the perspective of our caucus. How do you think this is going to be received in your caucus?
I think our caucus is fully on board. Anytime, not only can we help individuals, but work bipartisanly to help these individuals, is very much successful.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, I think we covered a lot of territory, but primarily what we're doing with House Bill 393 is to make sure that these individuals can get their state IDs before they leave instead of waiting for a long time and going through all the hoops after they leave. And this is at your request that we're doing this. We think this is going to help those folks who are returning back into society. Is there anything, Jason or Craig, that we left out? A question that I should have asked you, but because I am not a professional talk show host, I forgot to ask you in this whole process, or something you would like to say.
Just say thank you for giving us this opportunity, and Representative Brewer, Representative Click, as the president-elect for the Ohio Community Corrections Association. Anytime you want our support, if you need our advice, if you want input from any of the wonderful organizations that are part of the OCCA, I'll be president of that association beginning in January, and we are happy to assist you in any way that we possibly can.
Well, congratulations on that new role. I'm sure you'll do excellent at
Yes,
it. And you
congratulations.
do a fantastic job in Seneca County and Oriana House. And so we're very proud of you and proud to work with you. Any last thoughts, Craig?
Yeah, just again, thank you. It's always great to be able to work in unison when we can spot a problem and then find an easy fix and work towards that direction. I appreciate you, Representative Click, for jumping on board with that. And then Representative Brewer, we've had a couple conversations in the last year through other means of works. Again, really appreciate your support in this because again, it is all about helping our clients overcome those barriers.
Well, very good. But I don't see too many roadblocks in our way. If there are, we'll deal with them. But I think this is going to move rather quickly through the House. And I think we're going to get this done and we're going to help people. So thank you for number one, for reaching out to me, because we don't know sometimes what we don't know. And we depend on people like you who are working in the field and working in your area to reach out to us and say, hey, here's what we need. This is missing, or here's a gap. And that's how we know. And that's how we can respond, and we can work together collaboratively and get things done. So thank you for reaching out. Thank you for sharing that need. Thank you for supporting us. And we're going to be having future testimonies real soon on this. And we look forward to getting this across the line. And I'm going to the governor's office today to get a bill signing. And I look forward to a day when the four of us are in the governor's office getting this bill signed. God bless you all. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Well, that was so much good information to hear, and to hear from Jason and Craig as well. I'm sure that podcast was a lot of fun to film.
Oh, it was. And trying to get three people between Jason, Craig, and Rep Brewer and myself all together having a conversation and trying not to go too long, but to get everybody in to say something. And I think it's really informative also for people to understand, alternate forms of incarceration and how here in the state of Ohio, we are trying to do our best, not just to punish people, but to help people to be rehabilitated and to get back into society and to be productive members of society. And there's a lot of good people out there working to get those things done. And we in the legislature want to do our best to make sure that we give them the tools that they need.
Well, it was so good to hear about all of this. Now, listeners, we have a very interesting episode coming up. I believe we are doing a mailbag episode. Is that correct, Representative?
Yeah. We recorded that already. You always tend to pass on the emails that we get, but for this episode, we kind of went in cold, and I had not read these before you introduced them to me, and I just kind of answered them extemporaneously and responded to them. But it's all these are typically on this episode. They're just about the Charlie Kirk American Heritage Act, which is a very interesting bill. It's generated a lot of enthusiasm, both for and against. And we are in the process of having hearings on that, but we've also heard from some of the community. And so we try to answer some of those questions. So tune in next week and you'll hear that conversation.
All right. I believe we have a little clip that we're going to preview.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's
All
do a
right.
little preview, and then we'll see y'all next week.
The next writer kind of addresses this and says the same thing you just said, where he says, "Thank you for your efforts for bringing truth back to the teacher and making them able to share this with their students as well. The Charlie Kirk American Heritage Act will allow teachers in Ohio to discuss the positive impacts of Christianity and the way it has impacted our country in the classrooms, marketplace." Do you want to speak to that at all?
This bill does not allow it because it's already allowed.
Mm-hmm.
This bill affirms that it is already allowed. Even the ACLU said this is already allowed. And I said, so what side are you going to weigh in on when there's a conflict? And they wouldn't say. But it is already allowed by the First Amendment. But there is confusion about, as we can tell by the emails, as we can tell by the opponent testimony. Some people think it's already allowed. Some people don't think it is allowed. So it's very appropriate for the legislature to weigh in and say, yes, this is allowed. We want you to know this is allowed. And don't indoctrinate, don't proselytize, just tell the history the way it is. And you cannot be sued for doing that because the First Amendment protects you. That's all we're trying to do. is give that extra layer of perfection, not perfection, but protection to affirm for our...
You've been listening to What's Clickin', the official podcast of State Representative Gary Click, covering Ohio's 88th House District. That includes Seneca and Sandusky counties in Northwest Ohio. I'm Janae Myers, his legislative aide. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can send us an email at rep88, that's REP88, at ohiohouse.gov, or you can give us a call at 614-466-1374. Thanks again for joining us for What's Clickin' with State Representative Gary Click. We'll be back again soon to let you know what's clickin' in Ohio.